Wrong bride! He got the wrong one! The shout cut through Red Hollow's church like a knife. 300 voices erupted, laughing, jeering, mocking the woman in the plain dress, walking toward the altar. Mara Caldwell's hands shook, but she kept moving. They'd expected her beautiful sister Lillian. Instead, they got her, the plain one, the second choice, the mistake. The laughter grew louder, cruel, vicious, until Elias Boone turned from the altar and faced them. The scarred rancher they called the loneliest man on the prairie opened his mouth, and what he said next changed everything. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and stay with me until the end of this story. Comment below with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this tale travels. He turned to face them, not the bride, the congregation. The laughter died in patches. First the front pews, then the middle, then finally the back, where the ranch hands stood with their hats in their hands. To laugh? His voice came out rough. To laugh? His voice came out rough, like leather dragged over stone. Laugh at me, not her. Mara stood frozen halfway down the aisle, bouquet of prairie flowers trembling in her grip. Pastor Williams cleared his throat. Elias, perhaps we should finish it, but the bride is standing right there. Elias's eyes never left the crowd. Anyone got a problem with that? Doors behind you. No one moved. Mara forced her legs forward. One step. Another. The floorboards creaked under her boots. Actual work boots, not the delicate shoes Lillian would have worn. Someone in the third row whispered to their neighbor. Mara caught the words, charity case, and desperation. Her father, Marcus Caldwell, sat rigid in the front pew, face pale as milk. He'd begged Elias to postpone when Lillian ran. Begged on his knees outside the church at dawn. But Mara had been the one to say no. "We do this today," she'd told her father, "or we lose everything tomorrow." Now she reached the altar. Elias's face was weathered, lined with years of sun and solitude. 42 years old, and he'd never married, never courted, never even danced at a town social. They called him the loneliest man on the prairie, and he'd never bothered to correct them. "You sure?" he asked quietly, meant only for her. Mara nodded. "Are you?" Something almost like a smile touched his mouth. "Asked you first." Pastor Williams fumbled with his Bible. "Dearly beloved, skip to the vows," Elias said. "Elias, there's a proper skip to the vows." The pastor's hand shook. "Do you, Elias Boone, take—" "I do." "I haven't finished." "Don't need you to." Elias turned to Mara. "Do you?" Mara looked at him. Really looked. Past the scars, past the reputation, past the loneliness everyone whispered about. She saw a man who'd just defended her in front of the entire town. A man who could have walked away, could have taken the easy route and postponed, could have waited for Lillian to crawl back. "I do," she said. "Then I pronounce—" "Wait." Elias pulled a ring from his pocket. Not the delicate gold band Marcus had commissioned for Lillian. This was simple silver, worn smooth. "This was my mother's, only decent thing my father ever gave her." He slid it onto Mara's finger. It fit perfectly. The church sat in stunned silence as they walked back down that aisle together. Not hand in hand, neither of them was the type, but side by side, steady, while 300 pairs of eyes burned into their backs. Outside, the September sun hit like a hammer. "Carriage is waiting," Marcus said quietly. For the reception." "No reception," Elias said. "But the families." "No, reception." Elias looked at Mara. "Unless you want one." Mara thought about sitting in the town hall while people smiled to her face and mocked her behind their hands. Thought about the careful questions and the pitying glances. Thought about Lillian's empty chair and the whispers that would follow. "I'd rather go home," she said. Elias nodded. We'll take my wagon. Wait, Marcus grabbed Mara's arm. Sweetheart, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Mara pulled free gently. Papa, we talked about this. I know, but seeing you actually... His voice cracked. You're my daughter. You deserve... I deserve to save our ranch hands from starvation, Mara said. I deserve to keep our land from the bank. I deserve to make my own choices. Even if that choice is him? Marcus's eyes cut to Elias. Elias's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Especially that choice, Mara said quietly. Because unlike Lillian, I don't run when things get hard. The words hung in the air like smoke. Marcus flinched. Your sister was scared. She was selfish. Mara picked up her skirts. There's a difference. She climbed into Elias's wagon before her father could respond. The seat was rough wood, no cushions, no comfort. Elias swung up beside her and took the reins. Mara, Marcus tried one more time. I'll visit next Sunday, Mara said. Tell Mama I'm sorry about the dress. The wagon lurched forward. They rode in silence for the first mile. Red Hollow disappeared behind them, replaced by open prairie that stretched to the horizon. The land was brown, thirsty, dying inch by inch under the drought that had gripped Wyoming territory for 2 years running. Thank you, Mara said finally. Elias didn't look at her. For what? For stopping them. In the church. Didn't stop them, just made them quiet. That's stopping them. Elias was quiet for a long moment. Your sister told me I was a ghost with dirt on my boots. That true? I don't know what Lillian told you. I'm asking what you think. Mara studied his profile. The scar that ran from his left temple to his jaw. The hands that gripped the reins, scarred too, knuckles thick from years of hard work. The shoulders that carried the weight of a dying ranch alone. I think, she said carefully, that you're a man who keeps his word, even when it costs him. Kept my word today. Cost me my reputation. You didn't have much of one to begin with. Elias's mouth twitched. Fair point. Besides, Mara added, reputations are just stories other people tell about you. Doesn't make them true. What story are they going to tell about you? That I married a man I barely know to save my family's ranch? Mara shrugged. It's the truth. I can live with truth. Even when truth is hard? Especially then. The wagon hit a rut. Mara grabbed the side to steady herself. Elias's hand shot out automatically, catching her elbow. Their eyes met for a second before he pulled back. Sorry, he muttered. Don't be. They rode another mile in silence. Elias's ranch appeared over a rise. A small house, weathered barn, fence lines that needed mending. The cattle she could see were thin, ribs showing through their hides. 2 ranch hands stood by the barn, hats in hands, watching the wagon approach. Those are your men? Mara asked. Tom and Charlie, brothers. Been with me 8 years. How many more? Just them. Had to let the others go when the creek dried up. The wagon stopped. Tom, the older brother, stepped forward. He was maybe 30, with kind eyes and calloused hands. Ma'am, he said to Mara, welcome home. Mara's throat tightened. Home. She'd left her father's house an hour ago, and this stranger was calling her home. Thank you, she managed. Charlie, younger and broader, grinned. Heard there was some excitement at the church. Charlie, Tom warned. What? I'm just saying. You just being an idiot, Tom cut him off. Boss, you want us to help Mrs. Boone with her trunk, Elias said. I'll stable the horses. Mrs. Boone. The name sat strange in the air. Elias climbed down and offered Mara his hand. She took it. His palm was rough, warm, steady. She stepped down, and he released her immediately. "Tom will show you the house," Elias said. "I'll be in directly." He walked away before Mara could respond. Tom cleared his throat. "He's not much for conversation." "I noticed. But he's a good man, ma'am. Best I ever worked for." "You don't have to convince me," Mara said. "I married him, didn't I?" Tom smiled. "Yes, ma'am, you did." The house was small, 3 rooms total: kitchen, bedroom, and a small sitting area that doubled as an office. It was clean, but sparse. No curtains on the windows, no rugs on the floors. A man's home, built for function, not comfort. "Boss said to give you the bedroom," Tom said. "He'll sleep in the—" "We'll figure it out," Mara interrupted. She didn't need the ranch hands knowing the details of their sleeping arrangements. Tom nodded and retreated. Mara stood alone in her new home. Through the window, she could see Elias in the barn, moving efficiently, purposefully. A man who'd been alone so long he'd forgotten how to share space. Or maybe he'd never learned. She unpacked her trunk, 3 dresses, undergarments, her mother's Bible, and a leather-bound ledger she'd been keeping for the past 2 years. Every transaction at her father's ranch, every expense, every loss. She'd learned early that numbers told the truth when men lied. "Mrs. Boone?" Mara turned. Elias stood in the doorway, hat in his hands. "You can call me Mara." "Mara." He tried the name out. "I'll sleep in the barn." "That's not necessary." "Yes, it is." His voice was firm. "I married you for the land rights. You married me to save your family. But I won't—" He stopped, started again. "You don't owe me anything beyond what we agreed." "What did we agree?" "Survival." Mara set down the dress she'd been folding. "That's a low bar. It's an honest one." "So is this," Mara said. "I won't have you sleeping in a barn like you're ashamed of me." "I'm not." "Then sleep in your own house." She gestured to the sitting room. "There's a couch. You can use that." Elias studied her face. "You sure?" "I'm sure." He nodded slowly. "All right, then." He turned to go. "Elias?" He stopped. "Why did you defend me? In the church?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because they were wrong." "About what?" "About you." He met her eyes. "You're not the wrong bride. You're the only one who showed up." Then he left. Mara sat down on the bed. His bed, her bed, their bed, and finally let herself shake. Not from fear, from the weight of what she'd just done. She'd married a stranger, tied her life to a dying ranch, walked away from everything familiar. But when she closed her eyes, she didn't see disaster. She saw possibility. That night, Mara made dinner. Simple. Beans, cornbread, coffee strong enough to strip paint. Elias ate in silence, then washed his plate and thanked her quietly. "I can cook," he said. "I know." "So you don't have to—" "I want to." Mara poured herself more coffee. "Besides, we should probably figure out how this is going to work." "This?" "Marriage, partnership, whatever we're calling it." Elias sat back down slowly. "What do you want to call it?" "Honest," Mara said. "I want to call it honest." "Then honestly," Elias folded his hands on the table, "I don't know how to be married." "Neither do I." "I've been alone a long time." "I've noticed." "I'm not good with words." "You did fine in the church." "That was anger," Elias said. "That's different." Mara leaned forward. "Then let's not use words. Let's use work." "Work?" "You need help with this ranch. I need purpose. We both need this marriage to look real, or people will start asking questions. She met his eyes. So we work together. We fix fence lines, we check cattle, we keep books. And somewhere in all that work, maybe we figure out how to trust each other. Elias considered this. You know ranch work? I've been doing it since I was 12. Why do you think my hands look like this? She held them up, calloused, scarred, strong. Your father let you? My father needed help after the drought started. Lillian refused to get dirty. I didn't. Mara lowered her hands. I know how to mend fence, birth calves, read water rights documents, and keep books. And I know how to keep my mouth shut when men underestimate me. Elias almost smiled. Like I just did? Like everyone does. He stood and offered his hand across the table. Partners? Mara shook it. Partners. His grip was firm. He held on a second longer than necessary. One more thing, he said. What? Tomorrow morning, we ride to town. File the marriage license. Make it legal. And I'm transferring half the ranch to your name. Mara froze. What? You heard me. Elias, that's honest, he said. You said you wanted honest. Well, honestly, I'm not keeping a woman tied to a dying ranch without giving her a stake in it. You want to leave someday? You'll have something to leave with. Mara's eyes burned. I'm not planning to leave. I know, but you'll have the choice. He released her hand and headed for the door. Where are you going? Mara asked. Barn. Got to check on a sick calf. At night? Calves don't care about time. He paused at the door. Get some rest, Mara. Tomorrow's going to be long. After he left, Mara sat alone at that scarred kitchen table and cried. Not from sadness, from something else entirely. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. Morning came cold and sharp. Mara woke to the sound of Elias moving in the kitchen, quiet as a man trying not to wake the dead. She dressed quickly, work clothes, not the wedding dress still hanging in the corner, and found him at the stove, frying eggs. Coffee's ready, he said without turning. Thank you. They ate in silence, not uncomfortable, just two people who didn't yet know how to fill the space between words. We should leave soon, Elias said finally. Lawyer's office opens at 8. The whole town will know by noon. They already know. Question is, what they'll do about it. Mara set down her fork. What do you think they'll do? Elias met her eyes. Talk, mostly. Some will do worse. Worse how? You'll see. They rode into Red Hollow just after 8. The town was already awake. Shopkeepers sweeping boardwalks, women carrying baskets, men gathering outside the telegraph office. Conversation stopped as the wagon passed. Heads turned. Whispers started. There she is. Poor thing doesn't even know. He'll regret it inside a month. Mara kept her spine straight. Elias pulled up outside Samuel Porter's law office. Porter was old money, educated back east, the only lawyer between here and Cheyenne. He looked up from his desk when they entered, eyes widening slightly. Elias, Mrs. Boone. He stood, adjusting his spectacles. I heard about the wedding. Congratulations. Need to file the license, Elias said, and draw up a property transfer. Porter's eyebrows shot up. Transfer? Half the ranch. To my wife. The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Porter cleared his throat. Elias, that's a significant... I know what it is. But you've only been married 1 day. Don't care if it's been 1 hour. Elias pulled out a folded map. This is the boundary. Half goes to her name. Legal and binding. Porter looked at Mara. Mrs. Boone, do you understand what this means? It means I own half a dying ranch, Mara said calmly. Yes, I understand. And you're comfortable with this arrangement? Mr. Porter, I'm comfortable making my own decisions. Porter studied her face, then nodded slowly. Very well. I'll need both of you to sign several documents. They spent the next hour signing papers, while Porter explained water rights, property boundaries, inheritance clauses. Mara read every word. Elias noticed. You read legal documents often? He asked quietly. My father stopped being able to afford a lawyer 2 years ago. Someone had to learn. So you did. Someone had to. Porter finished notarizing the final document. It's done. Mrs. Boone, you are now equal owner of the Boone Ranch. All rights, all responsibilities. All debts? Mara asked. Porter hesitated. Yes, those two. How much? Porter glanced at Elias, who nodded permission. $1,700 to the land bank, due in 6 months. Mara's stomach dropped, but her face stayed steady. That's substantial. That's impossible, Porter corrected gently. I'm sorry, Elias. But even with combined water rights, I don't see how... We'll figure it out, Elias said. He stood. Thank you, Samuel. Outside, the sun had climbed higher. More people on the streets now. More eyes tracking their movement. $1,700, Mara said quietly. I told you it was a dying ranch. You didn't tell me it was already dead. Elias stopped walking. You want out? Say it now. I'll tear up those papers. Mara looked at him. Really looked. At the pride holding his shoulders back, despite the debt crushing him. At the scars earned from years of fighting drought and loneliness. At the hands that had defended her yesterday without hesitation. No, she said. I want to see your books. Something flickered in his eyes. Respect, maybe. Why? Because numbers don't lie, and I need to know exactly how dead we are. They headed for the general store, needed supplies, needed to face the town eventually. Margaret Henley ran the store with her husband Robert. She was pleasant enough, usually, but her smile froze when Mara walked in. Mrs. Boone. The title came out stiff. How unexpected to see you. Need flour and coffee, Mara said, and salt, if you have it. Margaret moved like she was walking through mud. Of course. Robert, get the lady her... She stopped. Where is your sister? That's not really your concern. I'm just asking, and I'm just shopping. Margaret's mouth pinched. Well, I heard she left town. Poor thing must have been terrified. Of what? Well, Margaret lowered her voice. Everyone knows Elias Boone is a hard man. Lonely. Strange. Your sister was smart to... My sister was a coward, Mara said clearly. Now are you going to sell me flour or not? The store went silent. 2 other women shopping froze mid-conversation. Margaret's face flushed red. I don't appreciate gossip about my husband, Mara cut her off. But here we are. Elias appeared at her elbow, arms full of supplies. This enough? More than. Mara turned back to Margaret. How much? Margaret calculated with shaking hands. $3.40. Elias paid. They walked out to stares and whispers. You didn't have to defend me, Elias said once they were outside. Yes, I did. Why? Because you're my husband, and I keep what's mine. Elias stopped loading the wagon. Is that what I am? Yours? Mara met his eyes. Are you? The question hung between them like a challenge. I don't know yet, Elias said finally, but I'm willing to find out. They rode back to the ranch in silence, but it was different now. charged, like the air before a storm. Tom met them at the barn, face grim. "Boss, we got a problem." "What kind?" "North fence line. Someone cut through during the night. Cattle are scattered." Elias's jaw tightened. "How many?" "Don't know yet. Charlie's out tracking now."
"Could have been coyotes," Mara suggested.
Tom shook his head. "Wire was cut clean, with tools. And there's boot prints. Fresh ones." Elias and Mara exchanged glances. "Show me," Elias said. They rode out together, Elias, Mara, and Tom. The fence line ran along the northern boundary, separating Elias's land from open grazing territory. Someone had cut a 10-foot section clean through, then scattered the posts to make it look like storm damage. "Amateur work," Mara said, kneeling by the cuts. "Look at the angles. Whoever did this was in a hurry." "How do you know?" Tom asked. "Because a professional would have made it look like wear and tear. This is deliberate." She stood, brushing off her hands. "Someone wants you to know they were here." Elias studied the boot prints. Size 10, maybe 11. Heavy stride. Man, not a boy. "Could be anyone in town," Tom said. "Could be." Elias's eyes scanned the horizon. "But it's not random." "How do you know?" Mara asked.
"Because random would have been easier. They chose the hardest section to repair, the one that'll cost us the most time."
Mara's mind raced. "Time we don't have." Exactly. Charlie came riding hard from the west, face flushed. "Found 6 heads scattered into the ravine. 2 are injured. 1 might not make it." Elias swore quietly. "Get them back. Carefully." "Boss, that's a 2-day job." "Then we start now." Mara touched Elias's arm. "Let me help." "You don't." "I know how to herd cattle, and you need every hand you've got." Elias studied her face, then nodded. "All right. Tom, you and Charlie get the injured ones. Mara and I will round up the rest." They worked until sunset. Hard, dirty work that left Mara's muscles screaming and her hands bleeding. But she didn't complain, didn't slow down. And when they finally got the last steer back through the fence, Elias looked at her with something close to admiration. "You weren't lying," he said. "You do know ranch work."
"Told you. Most women would have—"
"I'm not most women. I'm starting to notice." They repaired the fence by moonlight, working in silence. Mara held posts while Elias hammered. He handed her wire cutters without asking. They moved like they'd been working together for years, not days. "Why'd you really marry me?" Elias asked suddenly. Mara didn't stop working. "I told you, to save—" "The ranch, I know. But there were other ways. Your father could have sold, could have moved into town, could have found another buyer." "Could have. Didn't want to." "So you sacrificed yourself instead?" Mara looked up. "Is that what you think this is? Sacrifice?" "Isn't it?" "No." She twisted wire around the post. "Sacrifice is giving up something for nothing. I gave up comfort, but I got purpose. I got partnership. I got a chance to prove I'm more than what Red Hollow thinks I am." "And what do they think you are?" "The wrong bride. The second choice. The girl too plain to marry for love." Elias's hand stilled on the hammer. "You believe that?" "I believe that's what they see." Mara met his eyes. "Question is, what you see." He didn't answer right away, just looked at her in the moonlight, dirty, exhausted, bleeding from a dozen small cuts. Finally, he said, "I see someone who showed up." "That's all?" "That's everything." They finished the fence in silence. Back at the house, Mara washed blood off her hands while Elias made coffee. They sat at the kitchen table, too tired to cook, sharing jerky and hard bread. "This is going to keep happening," Mara said. "I know. We need to figure out who's doing it." "Could be anyone. Half the town hates me." "Hate doesn't cut fence lines. Someone's got a specific reason." Mara pulled out a piece of paper. "I'm going to start tracking it. Dates, times, damage. Pattern will show eventually." Elias watched her write. "You always this methodical?" "Someone has to be."
"Your father know how smart you are?" Mara's hand paused. "My father knows I'm useful. That's different."
"Is it?" She didn't answer. 3 days later, the water barrels were poisoned. All 4 of them. Tom found them in the morning. Dead rats floating on the surface. "Someone climbed the fence," Charlie said, examining the ground. "Same boot prints as before." Elias's face was stone. "How much water we got left?" "Creek's nearly dry. Maybe 3 days' worth if we ration." "Creek on the Caldwell property?" "Still running. Barely." Mara spoke up. "I'll ride over. Ask my father for access." "I'll go with you," Elias said. "You need to stay here. Watch the cattle." Mara stood. "Besides, he's more likely to say yes if I'm alone." Elias didn't like it, but he nodded. Marcus Caldwell's ranch was only an hour's ride. Mara found her father in the barn, looking older than he had 3 days ago. "Mara." His face softened.
"Baby girl, We need water access," she said. "Someone poisoned our barrels."
Marcus's expression darkened. "Poisoned?
"Who? Don't know yet. But we're dry, and the cattle won't last."
"Of course. Take what you need." He paused. "How are you, really?"
"Tired, dirty, busy."
"That's not what I asked." Mara looked at her father.
"I'm fine, Papa."
"You don't have to pretend with me."
"I'm not pretending. I married a good man. We're working hard. It's enough."
"Is it?" Marcus stepped closer. "Because your mother is worried sick. Lillian is—"
"Lillian made her choice," Mara said firmly. "I made mine."
"She wants to apologize."
"I don't want her apology."
"Mara."
"Papa, I didn't come here to talk about Lillian."
Mara gentled her voice.
"I came for water. Can I have it or not?"
Marcus sighed. "You can have it. But Mara, be careful."
"Of what?"
"People are talking. Bad talk. About Elias. About why you really married him."
"Let them talk."
"It's not just talk."
Victor Hale was in town yesterday. He's been asking questions about combined water rights, about who owns what now.
Mara's blood went cold.
"What kind of questions?"
"The kind that mean he's looking to buy, or steal." Victor Hale. She'd heard the name. Everyone had. Cattle baron who'd built an empire buying out desperate ranchers during the drought. Mean as a snake and twice as smart.
"Thanks for the warning," Mara said.
"Mara, if he comes for your land, he won't get it." "How can you be so sure?"
"Because I won't give it to him."
She mounted her horse.
"Thanks for the water access, Papa."
She rode back fast, mind racing. Victor Hale. That changed everything. Elias was waiting when she got back. She told him everything. "Hale," he said quietly. "Should have known."
"You know him?"
"Everyone knows him. He tried to buy me out last year. Offered half what the land was worth."
"What'd you say?"
"Told him to go to hell." Mara almost smiled.
"How'd he take it?"
"Like you'd expect. Smiled, shook my hand, left." Elias's jaw tightened. Week later, my barn caught fire. "You think he—" "Can't prove it, but yeah, I think he did." Mara sat down hard. Then this isn't random sabotage. This is systematic. He wants us, desperate, wants us to sell cheap. Or lose everything to the bank, and he buys it at auction. Mara's mind spun. How many other ranchers has he done this to? 14 in the last 2 years. And we're next. We're next. They sat in silence, the weight of it pressing down. I'm going to start documenting everything, Mara said finally. Every incident, every timing, every pattern. If Hale's behind this, there'll be evidence. Evidence doesn't matter if you're dead. Good thing I don't plan on dying. Elias looked at her. You're not scared? Terrified. But fear doesn't change math. We owe $1,700. We have 6 months. And someone's actively trying to destroy us. She met his eyes. Being scared won't fix any of that. Working will. You sound like my mother. What was she like? Stubborn, smart, refused to quit even when she should have. Elias touched the ring on Mara's finger, his mother's ring. She would have liked you. Because I'm stubborn? Because you showed up. That night, Mara started her ledger. She wrote down every incident with dates and details. The fence cutting, the poisoned water, the boot prints, the timing of Hale's visit to town. She cross-referenced it with what she knew about his other acquisitions. Patterns emerged. Hale always struck after public events, weddings, funerals, town meetings, when people were distracted, when sympathy was low, when victims looked weakest. Their wedding had been 3 days ago, right on schedule. Elias found her still writing at midnight. You should sleep, he said. Can't. Not until I finish this. He sat down across from her. What are you seeing? Mara showed him the patterns, the dates, the similarities. He's predictable. That's his weakness. How's that help us? Because if we know when he'll strike next, we can be ready. Elias studied the ledger. You're good at this. At what? Seeing things others miss. Had to be. No one else was looking. I'm looking now. Mara met his eyes. Something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Or respect. Or something deeper neither was ready to name. Good, she said quietly. Because I can't do this alone. You're not alone anymore. The words settled into the space between them like a vow. Over the next week, 3 more incidents happened. Cattle scattered, tools stolen, a small fire in the feed shed that Tom caught early. Each one documented, each one fitting the pattern. And then Marcus sent word. Hale wanted to meet, officially, to discuss options. It's a trap, Tom said. Of course it's a trap, Elias agreed. Question is whether we walk into it anyway. We do, Mara said, because we need to see his hand. That's dangerous. Everything's dangerous now. The meeting was set for Saturday, the saloon. Public enough to be safe, private enough to talk business. Mara spent the days before preparing. She compiled her evidence, rehearsed her arguments, steeled herself for whatever Hale would throw at them. You don't have to come, Elias said the night before. Yes, I do. He'll try to intimidate you. Let him try. Elias almost smiled. You really aren't scared of anything, are you? I'm scared of plenty. I'm just better at hiding it than most. Saturday came cold and gray. They dressed carefully. Mara in her best dress, Elias in his only suit. Tom and Charlie wanted to come. No, Elias said. We go alone. Show we're not afraid. Even though we are? Charlie asked. Especially because we are. The saloon was half full when they arrived. Conversations died. Eyes tracked them to a corner table where Victor Hale sat waiting. He was smaller than Mara expected, Neat suit, soft hands, smile that didn't reach his eyes. Maybe 50, with silver hair and the look of a man who'd never done hard labor in his life. Mr. and Mrs. Boone, he stood, all courtesy. Thank you for coming. Let's skip the pleasantries, Elias said. What do you want? Hale's smile widened. Direct. I like that. He sat back down. I want to help you. Help us into the ground, you mean? Now, Elias, Mr. Boone. Mr. Boone. Hale inclined his head. I understand you're facing some difficulties. Fence damage, water problems, unfortunate incidents. Incidents you caused, Mara said clearly. The saloon went silent. Hale looked at her like he'd just noticed she existed. Mrs. Boone, how assertive of you. How guilty of you, not denying it. Hale's smile froze. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying. I'm stating. Mara pulled out her ledger. 14 ranches in 2 years, all facing sudden incidents right before you made offers, all selling at fraction value, all now part of your empire. Correlation isn't causation. No, but pattern is proof. She opened the ledger. Want me to read the dates out loud? In front of all these witnesses? Hale's eyes went cold. You're making serious accusations. I'm stating documented facts. Which prove nothing. They prove enough to get the federal land office interested. Water rights violations are federal crimes, Mr. Hale, especially when they involve sabotage. Hale leaned back, reassessing. You're smarter than you look. And you're exactly as crooked as you look. Elias put a hand on Mara's arm. Warning or support, she wasn't sure. Hale pulled out a check. $500 for your half of the ranch, Mrs. Boone. Walk away now. Leave your husband to handle his own debts. No. It's more money than you've ever seen. It's insulting. It's generous, given your situation. Our situation, Mara corrected, is that we own land you want. That makes it valuable. Your land is worthless without water. We have water access through my father's property. For how long? Hale's smile returned. Marcus Caldwell is 3 months behind on his own payments. When the bank forecloses, and they will, that water access disappears. Mara's stomach dropped, but she kept her face steady. Then we'll find another solution. There is no other solution. The drought won't break. The cattle won't survive. The bank won't wait. Hale stood. I'm offering you a way out. Take it or lose everything. We'll lose it fighting then, Elias said. Hale looked between them. You're both fools. Maybe, Mara said, but we're honest fools, which is more than you'll ever be. Hale's face hardened. You'll regret this. Is that a threat? It's a promise. He walked out. The saloon erupted in whispers. Elias and Mara sat frozen. Did I just make things worse? Mara whispered. No, Elias said. You just made them real. They walked out together into the cold afternoon sun. The whole town was watching now, taking sides, choosing positions, and Mara realized something terrifying. The real war hadn't even started yet. 3 days after the saloon confrontation, Elias's best breeding bull was found dead in the south pasture. Throat cut clean. Tom discovered it at dawn. Boss, you need to see this. Mara was already dressed, following Elias out before he could tell her to stay. The bull lay in a pool of blood, flies already gathering. Charlie stood nearby, hat in his hands, face pale. This wasn't an accident, Charlie said unnecessarily. Elias knelt by the animal, examining the wound. Single cut, sharp blade. Someone knew what they were doing. That bull was worth $300, Tom said quietly. Was worth more than that. Elias stood, jaw tight. He was the only breeding bull we had left. Mara's mind raced. When did you last check this pasture? Yesterday evening, around 6. So, sometime between 6 last night and dawn this morning. She looked around. Ground's too hard for prints, but they had to get here somehow. Check the fence lines. Tom and Charlie spread out. Mara stayed with Elias. We can't afford to replace him, Elias said. I know. Without breeding stock, we're finished. I know that too. Elias looked at her. You're not panicking. Would that help? No. Then I won't waste the energy. Mara touched his arm. We document this. We add it to the ledger. We keep building the case. Building a case takes time we don't have. Then we work faster. Tom shouted from the eastern fence. Found it! Wire cutters left behind. Fresh tracks leading toward the road. They ran. Sure enough, someone had cut through and forgotten their tools in the rush. Expensive tools. Professional grade. Mara picked them up carefully. These aren't ranch tools. These are from a hardware store. Brand new. So? Charlie asked. So whoever used them bought them recently, and there's only one hardware store in Red Hollow. She looked at Elias. We can trace the purchase. Hale's too smart to buy them himself, Elias said. But his men aren't. They rode to town that afternoon. Mara went into the hardware store alone, while Elias waited outside. Old Mr. Peterson ran the place, half-blind but sharp as a tack. Mrs. Boone, he greeted. What can I do for you? These wire cutters. She set them on the counter. Someone used them to cut my fence. I need to know who bought them. Peterson squinted at them. Those are good cutters. Sold a pair just like them 2 days ago. To who? Now, Mrs. Boone, I can't just... Mr. Peterson, someone killed our bull last night, cut his throat and left him to bleed out. Those same wire cutters were found at the fence line. She leaned forward. I'm not asking you to testify. I'm asking you to tell me the truth. Who bought them? Peterson was quiet for a long moment. Jack Reeves, one of Hale's men. You're sure? Paid cash. Tried to act casual, but I remember him because he didn't know which cutters to buy. Had to ask for the strongest ones we had. Mara's heart raced. Would you swear to that? To who? The Federal Land Office, if it comes to that. Peterson's eyes widened. You're going federal? If I have to. He nodded slowly. Then yes, I'd swear to it. Mara thanked him and left. Outside, Elias was leaning against the wagon, arms crossed. Well? Jack Reeves, one of Hale's men. Can we prove it? Peterson will testify if needed. Elias pushed off the wagon. Then we go to the sheriff. The sheriff won't help us. We try anyway. Make it official. Sheriff Wade's office was cramped and smelled like old tobacco. Wade himself was 60, soft around the middle, with eyes that had seen too much and cared too little. He listened to their story with visible disinterest. And you have proof it was Reeves? He asked. Peterson identified him as the buyer, Mara said. That's not proof he killed your bull. It's proof he bought the tools that cut our fence the same night. Circumstantial. It's a pattern, Mara insisted. Look, we have documentation of 14 separate incidents, all of which could be coincidence. Coincidence doesn't poison water barrels. Wade leaned back in his chair. Mrs. Boone, I understand you're upset. New bride, dealing with ranch troubles, but making wild accusations against a respected businessman. Respected? Elias's voice was dangerously quiet. He's a land thief. That's a serious charge. I'll make it in writing if you want. Wade's eyes hardened. Mr. Boone, I'd advise you to be very careful about what you say in this office. Or what? You'll arrest me for telling the truth? I'll arrest you for slander if you keep talking. Mara put a hand on Elias's arm. We're not here to make trouble. We're here to report a crime. And I'm telling you there's no crime to report. Animals die. Fences get damaged. It's ranch life. Wade stood, signaling the conversation was over. Now, unless you have actual evidence, we have the wire cutters, Mara said, which proves someone bought tools, that's all. Wade opened the door. Go home, Mrs. Boone. Take care of your husband. Let the men handle business. The dismissal burned like acid. Outside, Elias was shaking with rage. He's on Hale's payroll. Obviously. So what do we do now? Mara's jaw set. We go over his head. To who? The federal marshal. Water rights violations are federal jurisdiction. Nearest marshal is in Cheyenne, 3 days' ride. Then we ride. Elias stopped walking. Mara, we can't both leave. Someone needs to watch the ranch. Then I'll go alone. Absolutely not. Elias, no. His voice was firm. I'm not letting you ride alone to Cheyenne. Not with Hale's men watching. Then what do you suggest? They stood in the street, at an impasse, until Tom appeared running. Boss, Mrs. Boone, you need to come quick. They ran. The entire way back to the ranch, Tom wouldn't say what happened, just kept urging the horses faster. When they arrived, Charlie was standing in front of the barn, face grim. Inside, every saddle had been slashed to pieces, every bridle cut, every bit of tack destroyed. When? Elias asked. Sometime in the last hour. We were both checking the south pasture. Mara calculated quickly. That's $2,000 in equipment. More, Elias said quietly. That was my father's saddle, and my grandfather's before that. This is escalating, Tom said. First fence, then water, then the bull, now this. They're getting bolder. Because we challenged Hale publicly, Mara said. This is retaliation. Charlie kicked at a pile of leather scraps. We can't even ride proper now. How are we supposed to work cattle? We borrow equipment, Elias said. From your father, he added, looking at Mara. He won't have enough for all of us. Then we make do. But that night, lying awake in the dark, Mara knew making do wasn't going to be enough. Hale was systematically destroying them, and if they didn't fight back soon, there'd be nothing left to fight for. You awake? Elias's voice came from the couch. Yes. Can't sleep either? No. Silence. Then, I'm sorry I got you into this. Mara sat up. You didn't get me into anything. I walked in myself. You didn't know it would be this bad. Neither did you. More silence. Mara? Yes? If you want to leave, I'd understand. Mara got up, walked to where he lay in the darkness. Are you trying to get rid of me? I'm trying to give you a choice. I made my choice. At the altar. Remember? That was before nothing. She sat on the floor beside the couch. You think I scare easy? No, but you think I quit when things get hard? I'm just saying, well, stop saying it. Her voice was fierce. I'm not Lillian. I don't run, and I don't appreciate being treated like I might. Elias was quiet for a long moment. You're angry. Yes. At me? At the situation, at Hale, at everyone who thinks I'm too weak or too stupid or too female to handle this. She stood. I'm going to Cheyenne tomorrow, alone or with you, but I'm going. Mara, Tom and Charlie can watch the ranch. We'll be gone 3 days, 4 at most. And when we get back, we'll have federal authority on our side. Or we'll come back to ashes. Maybe, but doing nothing guarantees we'll end up with ashes anyway. She looked down at him in the darkness. So what's it going to be? You coming with me or not? You know I am. Then stop apologizing and start planning. They left before dawn. Tom and Charlie had instructions to stay together, keep watch, and fire 3 shots if there was trouble. Mara had her ledger wrapped in oilcloth, every incident documented, every pattern marked. The ride to Cheyenne took 2.5 days of hard travel. They camped rough the first night, barely speaking, both lost in their own thoughts. The second night, they stayed at a way station, sharing a room because it was cheaper. You take the bed, Elias said. We can share it. We're married. Mara, it's big enough for 2, and I'm tired of you sleeping on floors and couches like you're ashamed of me. I'm not ashamed. Then act like it. They lay on opposite sides of the bed, backs to each other, a chasm of unspoken words between them. Mara thought about the first night after their wedding, when Elias had offered to sleep in the barn. How far they'd come since then. How far they still had to go. Can I ask you something? She said into the darkness. Yes? Why did you really agree to marry Lillian? Elias was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because I was drowning, and marriage to a Caldwell was the only rope anyone threw. Even if you didn't want it? I stopped wanting things a long time ago. Started just surviving. And now? Now I have something to lose. He rolled over to face her back. That's terrifying. Mara turned to face him. In the dim light from the window, his face was half shadow. What are you afraid of losing? The ranch, the cattle, my men. That's all? He met her eyes. No, that's not all. What else? You. The word hung between them like a confession. You can't lose what you never really had, Mara said quietly. Can't I? I'm not a possession, Elias. I know that. Do you? Because sometimes I wonder if you see me as a partner, or just another thing you're responsible for. You're not a thing. Then what am I? Elias reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he touched her face. You're the person who showed up when no one else would, who didn't laugh, who didn't run, who looks at me like I'm more than just a lonely rancher with a dying spread. You are more than that. Am I? Yes. What do you see when you look at me? Mara considered the question. I see a man who keeps his word even when it costs him, who defends the weak even when he barely has strength for himself, who's so afraid of losing things he won't let himself want them. Is that bad? It's human. His thumb traced her cheekbone. What do you want, Mara? Honestly? Honestly. I want this ranch to survive. I want Hale to pay. I want to prove everyone wrong who laughed at us in that church. She paused. And I want you to stop treating this marriage like a business transaction. What should I treat it like? Like a partnership, a real one. I thought that's what we had. We have the start of one, but you're still holding back. So are you. He was right. She knew it. Maybe we both are. Maybe we're both scared. Of what? Of this actually meaning something. Mara's breath caught. Would that be so terrible? I don't know. His hand dropped. I've been alone a long time. I don't know how to be anything else. Neither do I, but I'm willing to learn if you are. Elias studied her face. You mean that? I wouldn't say it otherwise. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to refuse. When she didn't, he kissed her. Gentle, tentative, like he was afraid she'd break. When he pulled back, Mara's heart was racing. That was a mistake? I was going to say overdue. Something that might have been a smile crossed his face. Yeah? Yeah. They lay there in the darkness, not quite touching, but closer than they'd ever been. Mara? When this is over, if we survive, we'll survive.
When we survive, he corrected. I want to try, really try. At this marriage. As opposed to what we've been doing? As opposed to pretending it's just business. Mara's chest tightened. I'd like that. Good. They fell asleep like that. Together. The next morning they arrived in Cheyenne. The federal marshal's office was a brick building near the territorial courthouse. Marshal Frank Cooper was a hard man with graying hair and eyes that missed nothing. Mr. and Mrs. Boone, he greeted after they explained their situation. Sit. Tell me everything. Mara did. She laid out the ledger, showed him the patterns, explained the incidents, named names. Cooper listened without interrupting, taking notes. This is thorough, he said when she finished. Thank you. But it's also circumstantial. Mara's heart sank. What would it take to make it actionable? Witness testimony. Physical evidence linking Hale or his men directly to the crimes. Proof of intent. We have the wire cutters. Peterson will testify.
Peterson can testify someone bought tools. That's not proof they used them for a crime. Then what do we need? Elias asked. Cooper leaned back. Catch them in the act. Get them to confess. Find documentation in Hale's own hand. He saw their faces. I know. I'm asking for the impossible. So you won't help us? Mara's voice was flat. I didn't say that. Cooper tapped the ledger. I'll open an investigation. Official. Federal. But Mrs. Boone, you need to understand. Investigations take time. Months, sometimes. We don't have months. We have 6 weeks before the bank forecloses. I know. And I'm sorry. But without hard evidence, my hands are tied. Cooper stood. Keep documenting. Keep watching. And if anything happens, anything you can prove, you send word immediately. They walked out into the bright Cheyenne afternoon, defeated. That was a waste of 3 days, Elias said. No, it wasn't. We have an official investigation now. Which means nothing without evidence. Then we get evidence. How? Mara's jaw set. We make Hale show his hand. We force him into a mistake. That's dangerous. Everything's dangerous now. They rode back hard, making the return trip in 2 days instead of 3. When they reached the ranch, Tom ran out to meet them, face pale. Thank God you're back. What happened? Elias demanded. The grazing barn. It burned down last night. Mara's blood went cold. Anyone hurt? No. But boss, Tom's voice dropped. The sheriff saying you did it. For the insurance money. Elias went very still. What? Hale filed a report this morning. Claims you were trying to defraud the insurance company. Sheriff issued a warrant for your arrest. The world tilted. This is it, Mara said quietly. This is Hale's endgame. What do you mean? Elias asked. He can't buy us out, so he's framing you.
Gets you arrested. Discredits you. Forces me to sell to cover legal fees. Her mind raced.
It's brilliant. And we walked right into it. What do we do? Mara looked at the burned barn, at the ranch hands, at her husband's face. We fight back. Publicly. In front of everyone. How? The church. Sunday service. Everyone will be there. She grabbed Elias's hand. We demand a public hearing. Right there in front of the whole congregation. Force Hale to answer our charges face to face. They'll side with him. Maybe, but we make them listen first. Mara's eyes blazed. And this time, we don't let them laugh. Sunday morning came with a wind that rattled the windows. Mara dressed in her wedding dress, the only formal thing she owned, and watched Elias struggle with his collar. "Let me." She stepped close, fixing the buttons he'd mangled. Her hands were steady, even though her heart wasn't. "You don't have to do this," Elias said. "We've had this conversation." "I know, but standing up in front of the whole town is exactly what we need to do." She finished the collar and stepped back. "They laughed at me once in that church. I'm not giving them the satisfaction twice." Tom and Charlie were waiting by the wagon, both dressed in their Sunday best. Charlie had a pistol poorly concealed under his jacket. "Leave it," Elias said. "Boss, I said leave it. We're going to church, not war." "Feels like the same thing," Charlie muttered, but he removed the gun. The ride to town was silent. When they arrived, the church was already filling. Families in their best clothes, ranchers in clean shirts, women with their hair pinned proper. Conversation stopped when the Boones walked in. Pastor Williams was at the pulpit, face anxious. "Elias, perhaps this isn't the best—" "We're staying," Mara said firmly. "And after the service, we're speaking." "Mrs. Boone, I don't think—" "We're not asking permission, Pastor." She walked down that aisle again, Elias beside her. The same aisle where they'd been mocked 3 weeks ago. This time, she didn't look down. She met every eye that dared look at her. They sat in the third row. Behind them, whispers started like brush fire. The nerve! With a warrant out for his arrest. Poor girl doesn't know when to quit. Mara's spine stayed straight. Victor Hale entered 5 minutes later. Clean suit, confident smile. Jack Reeves and 2 other men flanking him. He took a seat in the front row, right where everyone could see him. A statement of power. Sheriff Wade followed, settling himself near the door. His hand rested on his gun belt. The service began. Pastor Williams stumbled through his sermon, eyes darting between Elias and Hale. The hymns were sung half-heartedly. The prayers felt hollow. Everyone was waiting for what came after. When Williams gave the final blessing, he cleared his throat. "That concludes our—" Mara stood. "Pastor, we'd like to address the congregation." The church went silent. Williams's face paled. "Mrs. Boone, this is highly irregular." "So is arresting an innocent man." She turned to face the crowd. "My husband has been accused of arson, of burning his own barn for insurance money." "Mara," Elias warned. "Let me." She stepped into the aisle. "These are serious charges, and they deserve serious answers. In front of witnesses." Hale stood smoothly. "Mrs. Boone, your loyalty to your husband is touching, but this is a matter for the law." "The law that you bought?" Mara's voice cut through the church. "Sheriff Wade, when did Mr. Hale file his complaint?" Wade shifted uncomfortably. "That's not relevant." "When?" Mara pressed. "Friday morning." "And when did the barn burn?" "Thursday night." "Interesting." Mara pulled out her ledger. "Because my husband and I were in Cheyenne Thursday night. We didn't return until Saturday afternoon. We have witnesses. The innkeeper at the Red Crow way station. The clerk at the federal marshal's office. Marshal Cooper himself." Murmurs rippled through the congregation. Hale's smile didn't waver. "Witnesses can be paid. Like you pay yours?" Mara shot back. "Jack Reeves, stand up." Reeves, sitting beside Hale, froze. "Stand up," Mara repeated. Slowly, Reeves stood. "2 weeks ago, you purchased a pair of wire cutters from Peterson's Hardware. Professional grade, strongest they had. Is that correct? Reeves's jaw tightened. So what if I did? Those same wire cutters were found at my fence line the night our bull was killed. Care to explain that? I lost them. Could have been anyone. You lost $3 wire cutters? Brand new? It happens. Does it also happen that you were seen riding past our ranch the night of the fire? Tom, you told me you saw riders. How many? Tom stood from the back. 3. Moving fast. Heading east toward Hale's property.
Did you recognize them?
Too dark. But one was riding a paint horse. White and brown patches. Mara turned to Reeves. What kind of horse do you ride, Mr. Reeves? Reeves's face went red. Lots of people have paint horses. Answer the question. This is ridiculous, Hale interrupted. Sheriff, are you going to allow this harassment? Wade stood. Mrs. Boone, you need to stop. Or what? You'll arrest me too? Mara's voice rose. For what? Asking questions? Demanding answers? Or is that only allowed when you're on Hale's payroll? The church erupted. Gasps, shouts. Pastor Williams banging for order. Wade's hand went to his gun. That's slander. It's truth. Mara held up the ledger. 14 ranches in 2 years, all facing mysterious incidents, all forced to sell to Victor Hale at fraction value. I have dates, names, patterns, and I have documentation that this is systematic theft. Documentation doesn't mean anything, Hale said calmly.
Pattern doesn't equal proof.
Then explain this. Mara pulled out a folded paper. Water rights application, filed by you 6 weeks ago, for territory you don't own. Territory that includes both my husband's ranch and my father's. Hale's smile finally cracked. You can't file for water rights on land you don't own, Mara continued, unless you knew you were going to own it, unless you had a plan to force us out. Where did you get that? Hale's voice went cold. Federal Land Office. Public record. I had 3 days in Cheyenne. I used them well. Marcus Caldwell stood from his seat. You filed on my land. Marcus, this is a misunderstanding. My land. Marcus's face was purple. Without my knowledge or consent? I was preparing for future acquisitions. You were stealing. Marcus pushed into the aisle. How long? How long have you been planning this? Hale's composure was slipping. This is absurd.
Sheriff, control this.
Sheriff can't help you now, Elias said, standing. Federal water rights violations are federal crimes. Marshal Cooper opened an investigation Friday. He'll be here in 3 days. The church exploded into chaos. Wade looked panicked. You went to the federal marshal? Did you think we wouldn't? Mara's voice cut through the noise. You refused to investigate. You took Hale's word without question. You issued a warrant based on one man's accusation with no evidence. I had evidence. What evidence? Show us. Wade faltered. The fire inspector's report. You mean the report filed by Thomas Crane, Hale's brother-in-law? Mara had done her homework. That report? Gasps echoed through the church. Wade's face went white. I didn't know. Yes, you did. Elias's voice was hard. Everyone knows Crane married Hale's sister. Everyone knows he does whatever Hale tells him. Hale's face had gone from confident to dangerous. This is enough.
Sheriff, arrest them both. For slander. For disturbing the peace.
On what grounds? Pastor Williams spoke up suddenly. They're asking questions in a church. That's not a crime. They're making false accusations. Are they false? Williams found his spine. Because from where I'm standing, Mrs. Boone has presented more evidence than you have. The congregation was dividing, some nodding, some shaking heads, the town splitting in real time. Hale's voice went quiet. "You're making a mistake, Pastor." "Am I? Or did I make one 3 weeks ago when I let this congregation mock a good woman on her wedding day?" Mara's throat tightened. Williams continued. "I stood here and let them laugh. Let them call her the wrong bride. Let them treat her like she was less than human." He looked at Mara. "I'm ashamed of that, and I won't let it happen again." "Thank you," Mara whispered. Margaret Hemley stood from her pew. "Pastor's right. We treated her shamefully." "And why? Because she wasn't pretty enough? Because she married a man we decided to pity?" "Margaret," her husband tried. "No, Robert, I'm speaking." Margaret looked at Mara. "I'm sorry. For what I said in the store. For what I thought. You're 10 times the woman I gave you credit for." Other voices joined. Apologies. Agreements. The tide was turning. Hale saw it happening. "This is manipulation." "This is justice," Marcus said, "and it's long overdue." He looked at his daughter. "Mara, I'm sorry. For doubting you. For thinking you needed protecting. You're stronger than I ever knew." Mara's eyes burned, but she didn't cry. Hale's men were shifting nervously. Reeves particularly looked ready to bolt. "Where do you think you're going?" Tom blocked the aisle behind them. "This isn't legal," Reeves started. "Neither is cutting fence lines, or poisoning water, or killing livestock." Tom's voice was steady. "But you did it anyway." "You can't prove that." "Can't we?" Charlie appeared from the side door. "Found something interesting in the ashes of that barn. Want to see?" He held up a metal can. Kerosene, with Hale's Ranch brand stamped on the side. The church went dead silent. "Where did you get that?" Hale demanded. "Where it was left, in the burned barn. Your men weren't very careful." "That doesn't prove—" "It proves the fire was set with your kerosene, on your orders." Charlie set the can down. "I'm no lawyer, but that seems pretty clear." Hale's face went from pale to furious. "You planted that." "Did we? In front of witnesses? While you watched?" Mara shook her head. "You're losing, Mr. Hale, and you know it." Hale's hand moved fast. He grabbed the kerosene can and threw it. Not at Charlie. At the altar. It shattered against the wooden pulpit, liquid splashing across the dry wood. Then he pulled out a match. "Nobody moves," he said quietly, "or I burn this church with all of you in it." Women screamed. Men shouted. Chaos erupted. Elias stepped in front of Mara. "Victor, put it down." "Shut up." Hale's hand shook. "All of you, shut up. I've worked too hard to let some nobody rancher and his plain wife destroy me." "We're not trying to destroy you," Mara said carefully. "We're trying to stop you from destroying others." "Same thing." Hale struck the match. The flame flickered to life. "Here's what's going to happen. You're all going to sit down, quietly, and forget everything you heard here today." "And if we don't?" Pastor Williams asked. "Then I drop this match, and we all burn together." Sheriff Wade finally found his courage. "Victor, this is insane." "Is it? Or is it just good business?" Hale's eyes were wild. "I built an empire. I'm not losing it to some self-righteous fools who think morality matters more than money." "It does matter more," Mara said. "That's the difference between us." "The difference between us is I'm holding the match." "And I'm holding this." Mara pulled out a sealed envelope. "Federal Water Rights Injunction, signed by Marshall Cooper, effective immediately. All your applications are void. All your pending acquisitions are frozen. All your questionable land deals are under investigation." Hale stared. "That's not possible. I didn't just visit Cooper for a chat. I filed formal complaints, with documentation, with witness statements, with evidence." Mara's voice was steel. "You're finished, Mr. Hale, whether you burn this church or not." "You're bluffing." "Am I?" She held up the envelope. "Want to read it yourself?" Hale's hand trembled. The match burned lower, closer to his fingers. "Drop it, Victor," Marcus said. "It's over." "No." Hale's voice cracked. "No, I've worked too hard." "You've stolen too much," Elias corrected. "There's a difference." The match burned Hale's finger. He yelped, dropped it. The tiny flame fell toward the kerosene-soaked floor. Elias moved, faster than Mara had ever seen him move. He tackled Hale away from the puddle, and Tom was there with a jacket, smothering the match before it could catch. Hale fought like a cornered animal. "Get off me! Get off!" Sheriff Wade finally acted. He pulled Hale up, slapped irons on his wrists. "Victor Hale, you're under arrest for attempted arson, for terrorist threats, and pending investigation for fraud, theft, and conspiracy." "You can't! I own you!" Hale screamed. "Not anymore." Wade's voice was quiet. "Not anymore." Reeves and the other two men tried to run. Ranch hands from half a dozen properties blocked the doors. They'd been waiting, watching, hoping for justice. It took 10 minutes to restore order. 10 minutes of shouting and crying and people trying to process what they'd just witnessed. Mara stood in the center of it all, envelope still in her hand, watching the man who'd tried to destroy them be led away in chains. Elias appeared at her side. "You okay?" "Ask me tomorrow." "Fair enough." He took her hand. "You were incredible." "I was terrified." "Didn't show." "Good." She leaned against him. "Is it really over?" "Not yet. Still have the debt. Still have the drought. Still have a burned barn and no breeding bull." "But we have water rights, and land, and each other." Elias looked down at her. "Yeah, we do." Pastor Williams approached, face still pale. "Mrs. Boone, Mr. Boone, I owe you both an apology." "You already gave it," Mara said. "Not properly, not the way you deserve." Williams raised his voice. "Can I have everyone's attention?" The church quieted. 3 weeks ago, we gathered here for a wedding, and we behaved shamefully. We mocked a good woman for not meeting our expectations. We pitied a good man for circumstances beyond his control. We judged without knowing. We laughed without thinking. He turned to Mara and Elias. Today, that same woman showed more courage than this entire town combined. She stood up to tyranny. She demanded justice. She risked everything to protect not just her own land, but all of ours. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. And we owe her. We owe them both. An apology. And our support. Williams looked around. "So I'm asking, who here is willing to help the Boones rebuild? Who here will stand with them when the bank comes calling? Who here will prove that Red Hollow is better than we showed ourselves to be?" Silence. For a heartbeat. Then Marcus Caldwell stood. "I will. My ranch hands, my equipment, whatever they need." Margaret Henley stood. "My store, credit, supplies." Robert Peterson. "My tools, my time." One by one, people stood. Ranch owners, shopkeepers, farmers, families who'd laughed 3 weeks ago, now pledging their support. Mara's vision blurred. We can't ask." "You're not asking," Margaret said gently. "We're offering. There's a difference." Tom and Charlie pushed through the crowd, both grinning. "Boss, we just heard." "The judge is freezing all of Hale's assets, including the loans he held on half the ranches around here." "What does that mean?" Elias asked. "Means he can't foreclose. Means we have time. Maybe 6 more months while it all gets sorted." Mara's knees went weak. Elias caught her. 6 months," she whispered. "We can work with 6 months." Outside, the sun was setting. The congregation spilled into the street, everyone talking at once. Hale was being loaded into a wagon, still screaming about lawyers and rights and injustice. Mara watched him go, felt nothing but exhaustion. "Mrs. Boone?" She turned. Lillian stood there, pale and thin, eyes red from crying. "I don't want to talk to you," Mara said flatly. "I know, but I need to say something." "Then say it quick." Lillian took a shaky breath. "I was wrong. About everything. About Elias, about you, about what matters." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I thought I was too good for a hard life. Turns out I'm not good enough for it." "Lillian, let me finish, please." Lillian wiped her eyes. "I ran because I was scared, and selfish, and stupid. And you stayed. You fought. You became everything I pretended to be but never was." "I'm not trying to be you," Mara said. "I know. That's what makes you better." Lillian looked at Elias. "Take care of her. She's worth 100 of me." "I know," Elias said simply. Lillian nodded and walked away. Marcus approached slowly. "I'm proud of you, daughter." "Don't." Mara held up a hand. "Don't pretend this fixes everything." "I'm not, but I am proud, and I am sorry." He glanced at Elias. "You're a good man, better than I gave you credit for." "I'm just a rancher who got lucky." "No, you're a rancher who married the right woman." Marcus tipped his hat. "Water rights are yours, permanently. No questions." "Marcus, we can't—" "You can. You will. It's the least I owe you." He walked away before they could argue. Tom brought the wagon around. "Ready to go home, boss?" Home. The word settled warm in Mara's chest. "Yeah," Elias said. "We're ready." They rode back in the fading light. The ranch came into view, damaged, struggling, still standing. Still theirs. "What do we do now?" Mara asked. "We rebuild. We survive. We keep going." "Together?" Elias took her hand. "Together." That night, they stood on the porch watching the stars come out. The same stars that had watched them marry. The same stars that had seen them fight. "You know what the hardest part is?" Elias said. "What?" "Believing it's real. That we actually won." "We didn't win. We survived. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Winning means it's over. Surviving means we keep going." Mara leaned against him. "And we've got a lot of keeping going ahead of us. 6 months to pay off the debt. A drought that won't break. A barn to rebuild. Cattle to feed. Each other to figure out." Mara smiled. "That one might be the hardest." "Probably." Elias turned her to face him. "But I'm willing to try, if you are." "I wouldn't be here if I wasn't." He kissed her, not tentative this time, sure, claiming, promising. When they broke apart, Mara was breathless. "Well," she managed, "that's a start." "Just a start?" "We've got time to figure out the rest." 6 months. Maybe more, if we're lucky. "We've been lucky so far." Mara laughed. "Is that what you call this? Lucky?" "I call it married to you. Same thing." She hit his arm. He caught her hand, pulled her close. "Mara Boone," he said seriously. "The wrong bride, who turned out to be exactly right." Elias Boone, the loneliest man who learned he didn't have to be. They stood there under the stars, holding each other, while their ranch breathed quietly around them. Surviving wasn't the same as winning. but sometimes it was enough. Monday morning came with work to do. The barn was still ashes. The debt was still real, and 6 months was still just 6 months. Mara woke before dawn, found Elias already in the kitchen, coffee brewing. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked. "Kept thinking about the numbers. 6 months, $1,700, even with the reprieve. We'll figure it out." "How? The cattle are barely surviving. We can't breed without a bull. Can't sell what we don't have." Mara poured herself coffee. "Then we find another way." "There is no other way." "There's always another way." She sat across from him. "We just haven't thought of it yet." Tom knocked on the door before Elias could respond. "Boss, you're going to want to see this." Outside, wagons were arriving. Marcus Caldwell's men with lumber, Margaret Henley's husband with nails and hardware, Peterson with tools. Ranch families from 3 counties over, bringing supplies, labor, and determination. "What is this?" Elias asked. Marcus climbed down from his wagon. "This is a barn raising. Community effort. You helped expose Hale, saved half the ranches in the territory from foreclosure. This is us returning the favor." "We can't pay." "Nobody's asking for payment." Marcus gripped Elias's shoulder. "We're asking for a chance to do right by you. So let us." By noon, the foundation was laid. By evening, the frame was up. By the end of the week, the barn stood complete. Bigger than the old one, sturdier, built with hands that had learned the cost of looking away. Mara worked alongside the men, hauling boards, hammering nails, refusing to be relegated to cooking. Some of the older women tissed at her. "Let them talk," Margaret said, handing Mara another board. "You've earned the right to work however you want." "Have I?" "You stood up to Hale when no one else would. You demanded justice when we were all too scared. You proved you belong here," Margaret smiled. "Not as Elias's wife, as yourself." The words settled warm in Mara's chest. That night, exhausted and covered in sawdust, she found Elias checking fence lines by lantern light. "You should be resting," she said. "So should you." "Asked you first." Elias set down the lantern. "Can't rest. Keep waiting for the other shoe to drop." "What other shoe?" "The one where this all falls apart, where the bank changes its mind, where the drought wins, where you realize you made a mistake marrying me." Mara stepped close. "That's 3 shoes, and none of them are dropping." "You can't know that." "I know I'm still here. That's enough." He pulled her close. She let him. They stood there in the darkness, holding each other against the weight of everything they still faced. 2 weeks later, Marshal Cooper returned. He arrived with federal deputies and enough documentation to bury Hale for years. 14 counts of fraud, 22 counts of property theft, conspiracy, attempted arson, terroristic threats. Cooper laid it all out in Marcus's sitting room. He'll be lucky to see daylight in a decade. "What about his assets?" Mara asked. "Frozen pending restitution to victims. Could take years to sort out." "We don't have years. We have 5 months now." Cooper looked uncomfortable. "I know, but federal bureaucracy." "Can't we appeal to the bank? Explain the circumstances?" "You can try, but banks care about money, not circumstances." After Cooper left, Mara pulled out her ledger again. She'd been tracking every expense, every potential revenue stream, every possible angle. The numbers didn't lie. They were still short, by at least $800. "We could sell the land," Elias said quietly. "No." "Mara?" "No. We didn't fight this hard to give up now." "What else is there?" Mara stared at the numbers until they blurred. Then an idea struck. Dangerous, risky.
maybe brilliant. "The cattle," she said slowly. "What about them?" "We can't breed them, can't sell them for much now because they're too thin."
But what if we don't sell them now? We need money now. We need money in 5 months. What if we take them to better grazing, fatten them up, sell them at premium price in spring? Elias frowned. Better grazing where? Everything around here is drought dead. North Territory, Colorado line. I've heard the grass there held better. That's 3 weeks' drive, in winter, through mountain passes. I know. We'd need every hand we have. Would need to leave the ranch unguarded. Tom can stay, guard the property. It's dangerous, Mara. Everything's dangerous, she met his eyes. But it's a chance, maybe our only one. Elias was quiet for a long time. You really think we can do this? I think we have to try. They planned for a week. Charlie knew the northern routes. Marcus agreed to loan them 2 extra hands. They'd drive 40 head, everything healthy enough to make the journey. Sell them at the Colorado railhead, where Eastern buyers paid premium for quality beef. If they succeeded, they'd clear the debt with money to spare. If they failed, they'd lose everything. I'm coming with you, Mara said the night before departure. Absolutely not. It's my ranch too, my risk, my choice. It's too dangerous. I've done dangerous. I stood up to Hale in a church full of people. I can handle a cattle drive. This is different. How? Because... Elias stopped, started again. Because if something happens to you out there, I won't survive it. The admission hung between them like a confession. Then nothing better happened to either of us, Mara said quietly. Because I feel the same way. They left at dawn, 40 head of cattle, 5 riders, 3 weeks of supplies. Tom stood watching from the porch, rifle in hand, promised to defend the ranch carved into his face. The first week was brutal. Frozen ground, icy streams, cattle that tried to scatter every time the wind shifted. Mara's hands cracked and bled. Her body ached in ways she'd never imagined. But she didn't complain, didn't slow down. Charlie taught her rope work around the campfire. Marcus's men shared their coffee rations when hers ran out. Elias stayed close, always watching, always ready to catch her if she fell. She didn't fall. The second week, they hit the mountain passes, narrow trails, steep drops, cattle that balked at the edges and had to be forced forward one by one. They lost 2 steers to a ravine. Nearly lost Charlie when his horse slipped on ice. This was a mistake, Elias said that night, voice raw. We should turn back. We're halfway there, Mara said. Turning back costs us the same as going forward, except forward has a payoff. If we make it. We'll make it. How can you be sure? Because we have to. Because there's no other option. Because I refuse to let Hale win from a jail cell. Elias pulled her close. You're the stubbornest woman I've ever met. Good thing you married me then. Best decision I ever made. Even though you were tricked into it? I wasn't tricked. I got lucky. On the 18th day, they crested the final pass. Below them stretched green valleys, not lush, but alive. Grass, water, hope. The cattle smelled it and surged forward. Easy, Charlie called. Don't let them scatter. They worked through the night, getting the herd settled in the first good grazing they'd seen in months. By morning, the cattle were already looking better, fuller, stronger. 3 weeks of this, Mara calculated. They'll be prime. If the buyers come. They'll come. They did. Buyers from Chicago, St. Louis, Denver. All hungry for quality beef to ship east. All willing to pay top dollar. Mara negotiated. Elias watched in amazement as she played buyers against each other, drove the price higher, refused to settle for less than the cattle were worth. 40 head, she said to the final buyer. Grass-fed, healthy. $35 a head.
That's robbery, the buyer protested. That's quality. Take it or leave it.
30. 34. 32. Final offer. Mara looked at Elias. He nodded. Deal, she said. $1,280. More than they needed. More than they dared hope. The buyer counted out the money. Gold certificates and hard cash. Mara's hands shook as she folded it into her coat. You did it, Elias said quietly. We did it. They bought supplies for the return journey. Better food, warmer blankets. Small luxuries they denied themselves for years. Charlie whooped when Elias bought him a new saddle. The trip back took only 2 weeks. No cattle to slow them. No worry about grazing. Just 5 riders racing home before winter hit hard. They arrived to find Tom pacing the porch. Thank God, he breathed. I was starting to think. We made it, Elias said. How's the ranch? Standing, no incidents. It's been quiet. Too quiet, Mara thought, but didn't say.
That night, they counted the money again. $1,280. Minus expenses. Minus what they'd spent on supplies. $1,147 remained. It's not enough, Elias said. We're still short. Not by much. $553. Might as well be $5,000. Mara pulled out a separate envelope. We have this. What is it? Restitution payment from the federal government for damages caused by Hale's criminal enterprise. $300. Elias stared. When did you get this? Cooper sent it last week. Tom held it for us. That still leaves us short. By $253. Mara's mind raced. The new barn. We built it ourselves, used community labor. We saved at least $400 there. We can sell that as labor equity. The bank won't accept that. They will if we frame it right. She was already writing. We document the labor hours. We assign fair market value. We present it as deferred payment, we're now claiming. Mara, that's not how banking works. Then we make it work. She spent 3 days preparing documents, labor logs, market valuations, legal precedents. When she finally rode to town to meet with the bank manager, she had a case built like a fortress. Richard Thornton had run the First Bank of Red Hollow for 20 years. He was fair, but rigid. He listened to Mara's presentation without interrupting. Mrs. Boone, I appreciate the effort, but labor equity isn't liquid assets. Neither are promissory notes, but you accept those. That's different. How? You accept promises of future payment. This is documentation of past labor. The bank has rules. The bank also has discretion and a public relations problem. Mara leaned forward. Victor Hale defrauded 14 ranches. The bank financed some of those transactions. If it comes out that you profited from criminal enterprise, we had no knowledge. Doesn't matter. Perception is reality. And right now, the perception is that this bank enabled a criminal. She softened her voice. But if you work with us, if you show flexibility and mercy, that changes the story. Thornton was silent for a long moment. You're asking me to break protocol. I'm asking you to be human, to recognize that we've fought harder than anyone should have to fight, to acknowledge that we've paid in blood and sweat what we can't quite pay in cash. The board answers to depositors, and every depositor in this territory knows what we did, how we stood up to Hale, how we saved their ranches. Mara met his eyes. Help us, please. Thornton pulled out a calculator. He ran numbers, checked figures,
rechecked them. Finally, he looked up. If I accept the labor equity at 60% valuation, which is generous, and apply your cash payments plus the restitution funds, he paused. You'd still be short by $87. Mara's heart sank. 87. I'm sorry. She stood to leave, then stopped. What if I work it off? Excuse me? I'll work for the bank, keep your books, manage accounts, whatever you need, at fair wage, until the debt is cleared. Mrs. Boone, I can't hire. Why not? Because I'm a woman? Because I'm married? Or because you think I'm not qualified? She pulled out her ledger. I've been keeping books since I was 14. I tracked Hale's criminal enterprise across 2 years and 14 properties. I can handle your accounts. Thornton examined the ledger. His eyebrows rose. This is remarkably thorough. I know what I'm doing. Clearly. He was quiet, thinking. 3 months, part-time. That would clear the balance. I'll do it. Your husband will support my decision because he respects me. Thornton almost smiled. Very well. You start Monday. Mara rode home shaking. Not from fear, from triumph. Elias met her at the gate. What happened? We're clear. In 3 months. How? I'm working for the bank, keeping books. Elias's face went through several emotions. Pride, concern, acceptance. You sure about this? Are you questioning my ability or my choice? Neither. He pulled her off the horse and into his arms. I'm just proud of you. Good, because I'm proud of us. That night, they sat at the kitchen table, the debt papers in front of them. Not paid off yet, but close enough to see the end. 3 months, Elias said. Then we're free. Free to what? Free to actually live, to build instead of just survive. I don't know how to do that. Neither do I, but we'll learn. The 3 months passed in a blur. Mara worked at the bank 3 days a week. Elias ran the ranch with Tom and Charlie. They rebuilt fences, repaired equipment, planned for spring. The drought didn't break, but Marcus's water rights held. And community cooperation meant shared resources when anyone ran short. On the final day, Mara delivered the last payment to Thornton personally. $87, she said. Earned and paid. Thornton stamped the papers. Congratulations, Mrs. Boone. Your debt is cleared. Thank you. No, thank you. Your work here has been exemplary. I'd like to offer you permanent employment. Mara blinked. Permanent? Part-time, flexible hours, fair wage. You're the best bookkeeper I've had in a decade. She stopped. Thought. Can I discuss it with my husband? Of course. But Mara, Thornton's use of her first name was deliberate. You don't need his permission. You need his partnership. There's a difference. That night, Mara told Elias about the offer. What do you want to do? He asked. I want your opinion first. My opinion is that you're brilliant and capable and should do whatever makes you happy. That's not an opinion. That's deflection. Elias smiled. All right. Honestly, I think you should take it, not because we need the money anymore, but because you're good at it, and because you deserve to be more than just a rancher's wife. I am more than that. I know. But does the town? After today they will. She took the job. 2 days a week. Enough to stay sharp. Not enough to neglect the ranch. Spring came slowly. The drought held. But something else broke. The fear. The town that had mocked them now respected them. The families that had laughed now asked for advice. Mara and Elias became the couple people pointed to when they talked about surviving hard times, about partnership, about refusing to quit. One evening, 6 months after the church confrontation, Pastor William stopped by. "I'm updating the church records," he said, "and I realized I never properly recorded your marriage." "It's legal," Mara said. "We have the papers." "I know, but I thought—" Williams pulled out the church register. "I thought you might want to sign it again. Properly this time, with witnesses who celebrate you instead of mock you." Mara looked at Elias. He nodded. They signed. Williams witnessed. Tom and Charlie added their marks. "There," Williams said. "Now it's official in the eyes of God and Red Hollow." "Was there a difference?" Elias asked. "For a while, yes. Not anymore." After Williams left, Mara stared at the register entry. Mr. and Mrs. Elias Boone. Married with honor. Celebrated with joy. "Feels different this time," she said. "Because it is different. We're different." "Better?" "Definitely better." That night, lying in bed, their bed now, not his or hers, but theirs, Mara asked, "Do you ever think about that day in the church?" "Which part?" "The part where they laughed, where they called me the wrong bride." "Sometimes." "What do you think now?" Elias rolled to face her. "I think they were idiots, and I think I'm the luckiest man alive." "Because I saved the ranch?" "Because you saved me." He touched her face. "I was dying before you came, just going through motions. Surviving wasn't living." "And now?" "Now I'm living, because you showed me how." Mara's eyes burned. "I love you." The words came easy, natural, true. Elias's breath caught. "Say it again." "I love you, Elias Boone." "I love you too. Have for weeks. Just didn't know how to say it." "You just did." They held each other in the darkness, two people who'd started as strangers and become something stronger than either had dreamed. A year after the wedding, the drought finally broke. Rain came in sheets, soaking the dry earth, filling creeks, turning brown grass green. Mara stood in it, face turned up, laughing like a child. Elias joined her. "You're getting soaked." "I don't care." He pulled her close. "Neither do I." They danced in the rain. No music, no audience, just two people celebrating survival. 2 years later, Marcus Caldwell came for Sunday dinner. He was older, slower, but proud. His ranch had survived too. "Heard from Lillian," he said carefully. Mara tensed. "How is she?" "Married. Some merchant in San Francisco. Asked about you." "What did you tell her?" "That you're happy, successful, exactly where you're supposed to be." Marcus paused. "She said to tell you she's sorry. For everything." "I know she is." "Do you forgive her?" Mara thought about it. "I don't need to forgive her. She made her choice. I made mine. We both have to live with them." "That's very mature." "That's very practical. Forgiveness implies I was wronged. I wasn't. I got exactly what I wanted." After Marcus left, Elias asked, "Did you mean that? About getting what you wanted?" "Every word." "Even the hard parts?" "Especially the hard parts. They made us who we are." 5 years after the wedding, Mara stood on the porch watching the sun set over land that was green and thriving. The debt was long paid. The ranch was profitable. The community was strong. Elias came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking?" "About that first day, when I walked down that aisle." Regret it? Not for a second. Even though they laughed. They stopped laughing, didn't they? They did, because of you. Because of us. A child's voice called from inside. Their son, 2 years old, with Elias's eyes and Mara's stubborn streak. Another blessing they'd never planned for, but couldn't imagine living without. "Coming, Mama!" Mara called back. Elias held her a moment longer. "I never thanked you properly." "For what?" "For showing up, for staying, for being the right bride when everyone said you were wrong." Mara turned in his arms. "I wasn't the wrong bride. I was the only bride. The one who chose to be there. The one who chose you." "Best choice you ever made?" "Second best." "What was the first?" "Choosing myself. Refusing to be ashamed of who I am." She kissed him. Marrying you was just the natural consequence of that choice. Inside, their son called again. The cattle needed checking. The books needed updating. Life kept moving forward, demanding their attention. But for this moment, they stood together on their porch, watching the sun set over land they'd fought to keep, surrounded by a community they'd helped save, living a life neither had dared dream possible. The church that once laughed had learned a different story. The story of a woman who refused to be second choice. The story of a man who learned that love wasn't weakness. The story of a partnership that started with necessity and became something beautiful. Red Hollow would tell the story for generations. The day the wrong bride proved she was exactly right. The day a lonely rancher found his voice. The day laughter turned to respect, and respect turned to love. And Mara and Elias Boone lived it every single day. In the life they built together from ashes and determination and the simple courage to show up when everyone else ran away. That was their story, and it was enough.